Welcome Erasmus students. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Jasper Schatz.
And I'm Janet Walker. I'm the Deputy Head of School, but I'm also the coordinator of the semester that you will spend with us.
And this year, for a change, I thought Janet and I might talk about the learning expectations here at Lincoln University to give you something to think about right at the beginning of your time with us here at Lincoln.
So, I thought I'd start our conversation by saying I think that very often for students who come from a different learning experience, that you might see that our structure is quite loose. That doesn't mean that we don't put in place a structure, but we have high expectations of students as adult learners. So within that framework that we set up, we expect that students will make use of the learning experience and engage in that process as much as they can. So we use things, for example, Jasper, as you'll know, like Blackboard, which is our e-learning site. So we'll put a lot of material on there. We'll put things like when we do formal lectures, for example, our PowerPoint presentations. So we're setting up that kind of framework and those kind of ideas for students themselves to explore. Is that something you would say that we do?
Yes, and really we use Blackboard a lot to prepare students for what they're going to do in a lecture or in a seminar or group work discussion. So we'd really want you as international students to look at the materials before you come into class. But Janet, I was just wondering about the learning style here at Lincoln University, thinking about students coming to a lecture or coming to a seminar or a group work activity. How are they expected to take part?
Okay, well I think you and I share very similar learning styles in that we do put in, obviously, structured, more formal aspects, but in between all of that we're also putting in things like individual exercises, group work exercises, and we would expect, my expectations is that students would come ready to join in, to have conversations, to have debates within that. And I know that both you and we do really try and empower students to take part. So it is important that people engage actively in the learning process, because that's how you get the most out of your experience of being here.
I was just thinking about the fact that over the last 2 years we've had students, international social work students on the master's programme here from different continents, all 5 continents across the world.
Absolutely.
So I was just wondering, in terms of thinking of a particular student coming from a particular culture, maybe a particular religious background, what adjustments that might need to make, how they might fit in to group work and learning with other students from many other countries.
Absolutely. I mean, some of the experiences of the students that we work with are used to a much more formal, I think, sense of learning, where people like you and I would stand at the front, deliver what we need to, and that would be the kind of sum total of that learning. But I know you and I and others who teach on the programme do see that it very much as a kind of engagement process. So my answer to I think, is that firstly, we do some work with you when you first come in here to talk about our approaches to teaching and learning, about expectations. We also get you warmed up to those ideas about working with other colleagues. But ultimately, it's about having a go. About you as a student really trying to have your say, making a comment. And I know that we would never discourage people from airing in a classroom what their views are, what their ideas were, questioning us, thinking about, questioning others, because that's a safe place at least to do that, in my view.
Sure, because I suppose in terms of diversity, we would bound to have different views and opinions and experiences, and we would welcome that. And I suppose sometimes with the teaching, sometimes with the feedback that we get from students, we actually change or adapt things, don't we?
Indeed.
As a staff group, we talk about the evaluation that we've had, and 1 or 2 suggestions that students make. Certainly from last year and the year before, one of the main feedback that students gave me with a particular module was really around how valuable the group work process is, the collaborative working. And I think at master's level, maybe that's one sort of key area for students to think about, to be ready to collaborate with the students, to work together.
And that comes out, as you know, in things like assessments. There is an expectation when you kind of come to be assessed on your work. There are a range of ways that we would test that out. Some is about the more traditional individual assignments, but it's very much about, some might be group work, might be presentations, it might also, the other kind of things we do is some simulations as well within all of that. So people get a chance to use different methods of presenting what they've learned.
So can you just say a bit more about simulation and what does that mean?
Okay, for me simulation means almost, sometimes people have sometimes talked about it about being sometimes a role play, but I think it can be more than that. In the module that I teach, where we look particularly at experiences for older people, I may present a scenario, an idea, and ask people to model or think about how that experience might impact on, say, an older person. So we can do it in different ways. One may be through role play, one be about modelling, actually physically moving around the room and thinking about things. But what I'm trying to do is engendering people discussion, thinking about, putting yourself in the shoes of others, thinking about what it means for your own practice. So the idea is that there isn't necessarily an answer, but what is important is kind of those thinking, those processes that you're using and how you arrive at your decision about what should happen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.